Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. And happy early St. Patrick's Day. We're excited for a great lineup tonight. We have a lot of special people joining us, and it's going to be a fun party. So thank you all for being with us. Just a few things before we get started. I wanted to do a quick thank you to Davidsons. Without their support at all of these events, they would not be able to happen. So thank you to them. Thank you to Rebecca. And then a thank you to Bushmills for being with us tonight, and Brad with Proximo. We also appreciate you as well. And all of our spirit specialists and beer specialists that we have with us from Davidsons. We appreciate their time and effort they put behind all of these things. So a few things as well, just to stop the background noise, we ask that you stay muted. If we don't want all of that background noise, dog barking, all of that. So we do encourage you to ask questions and to participate in the chat. We'll be checking that throughout the event. So comments, questions, whatever you have, feel free to pop it in there. And with that, I will go ahead and send it over to Jack, who is with Bushmills Distillery, and he is going to get us kicked off.
Oh, perfect. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for joining tonight. My name is Jack Ferris. So I work with Bushmills Irish Whiskey. But on top of that, I actually used to work at the distillery. So I worked there for 7 years. I only grew up 5 miles away from that distillery. So I've been in the United States now for just over 3 years. Obviously before the last 12 months, we've experienced a bit of the great opportunity to visit Colorado many, many times. So it's definitely back on the list as soon as I can get back out there. But on top of that, we've talked enough about me. The whiskey's bigger than myself. So we've got 2 whiskeys we're going to talk about tonight. We've got our Bushmills Original, and we have our Black Bush. But the one we're going to start off with is our Bushmills Original. So firstly, a little bit of background about what Bushmills is and who we are. So we are the world's oldest licensed whiskey distillery. Now that distillery was founded back in 1608, and that date you can find embossed on the bottom of every single bottle. Now with that, that means that we were here before anyone else. And what we produce at Bushmills is a triple distilled single malt. And what that simply means that we distill our whiskey 3 times. Now with that, that is one more than most scotches, one more than most bourbons. And by doing that triple distillation, we remove a lot more of those harsher components, those hotter components. This way, I always tend to find people describe Bushmills and a lot of Irish whiskies as being smooth. And that's the reason why. The second aspect is the single malt. We use 100% malted Irish barley. We do not smoke, so there is no peatiness, unlike our Scottish brothers. You've probably already noticed with my accent, it's a lot thicker than maybe your traditional Irish accent. That ties into where we are. We're right up on the north coast of Ireland, only 1 mile from the North Atlantic Ocean. So we're 56 miles north of Belfast, which Belfast already is about 150 miles north of Dublin. So whenever we say we're from the north coast, we mean it. We're only 17 miles from Scotland. So we're actually closer to Scotland than we are to even Belfast. But we are some of the most stubborn people you can come across. And that's the reason why we have stood the test of time. The reason why we are the only Irish whiskey distillery still to remain open after Prohibition. So we've talked enough about background of the brand itself. What we will do now is we'll delve into the whiskey. So the first whiskey we're going to discover and explore tonight is going to be our Bushmills Original. So our Bushmills Original, probably one of our most recognizable brands. This has been around since 1888, and the whiskey has remained unchanged. So we have a whiskey recipe that has a recipe that has stood before Prohibition itself. But for any of us that love to frequent a speakeasy, or we love pre-Prohibition style cocktails, this is the one that you need to be looking at. The Bushmills Original, it is going to be a blended whiskey. And what that simply means is that we do blend whiskies to make the whiskey more accessible. So we use a tailor-made grain spirit. And what that simply is, it's a recipe made solely for us. No one else has access to this. It's a mixture of malted, unmalted barley, and wheat. Now we blend this to about 50-50. We then age this whiskey for about 5 years inside Kentucky bourbon barrels. There's a little bit of sherry cask in here, but it's so little, it's not something we draw attention to. Now, if you do have it, you nose it. Now, of course, our first nose of any distilled spirit, and this is only at 80 proof, we're going to get the alcohol notes. So we explore it again. And we're going to suddenly notice that sweetness is more enhanced. Then we're going to get a little more of that caramel. Then if we take a little sip, what we're going to notice is that warmth comes across the front of the palate, but now a little bit of a creaminess. Now we discover more of that vanilla. And now you'll even notice towards the back of the jawline, a little hint, a little more of that spice. And that spice is actually the notice of the sherry cask, but it is so subtle. Again, it's not something I normally draw too much attention to. Our Bushmills Original, it is a whiskey that is very versatile. And it's a whiskey, because those vanilla caramel notes stand out, it is something that I would always encourage to use in more of the likes of an Irish coffee. And since we are coming up to St. Patrick's Day, since we do need caffeine to keep us going through that day, what we're going to do is do a little demonstration for you. So I've already got my coffee poured into a 6-ounce Georgian glass. Now, what we're going to do, this is roughly about 4 ounces, 4.5 ounces of coffee. What we're then going to do is add some sugar syrup. So this is simply just brown sugar. I've just diluted it, and we're going to put in about half an ounce. And then we're going to put in 1 ounce of Bushmills Original. And we're going to fill this up to where we have what we call a thin finger's worth of width at the top. And what we're going to do now, and this is what makes Irish coffee very special, it's the cream. So we're just going to make that a little bit thicker, not so thick that you can stick the spoon in it, but thick enough that whenever we layer it on the coffee, we're going to get that effect of a baby Guinness. And you've just seen how easy it is to make a perfect Irish coffee. It is literally just over 4 ounces of regular drip coffee. It is then going to be 1 ounce of Bushmills Original. It's going to be half an ounce of brown sugar syrup. And again, this is just sugar and water. That's all it is, diluted. And then we're just going to layer it with cream. And unfortunately, with your FDA laws here in America, we have to just make that cream a little bit thicker. Obviously, the cream we use back home in Ireland is a little bit different. There's a lot more fat in it, a lot more of those oily notes in there, so we can actually just use it straight from the carton. Here in America, you need to just thicken up that a little bit more. So we use a protein shaker, which is fantastic if you're making a couple of Irish coffees for your friends, because you can keep that in the fridge and you just keep pulling it out again. So yes, this is the perfect way to enjoy Bushmills Original. So, any questions so far? Let's double check. Excellent. Oh, Armoy. Yes. Okay. Armoy, that is not far away from Bushmills at all. But yeah, if anyone wants to know how to make the perfect Irish coffee, one of the best things I would encourage you to do is follow a bar in New York City called the Dead Rabbit. They have perfected essentially the way an Irish coffee should be made. Their methodology is to bring the Irish bar and the Irish drinks into the 21st century. We do tend to find that a lot of the Irish drinks are not made the way that we would know them to be made back home. So they just show you how simply and how easily it is to make this Irish coffee. And what I've just shown you, because I'm in my home, this is my kitchen, how to change it for our virtual purposes. That is how simple it is to make an Irish coffee at home. So if you're celebrating with your friends or family at one location, you can see just how easy that is to do. Now, the next one we're going to do is we're going to delve into Blackbush. So Blackbush, this is going to be a whiskey very, very, very much loved around the world. For anyone who knows Bushmills, anyone who knows Bushmills blends, this whiskey carries a very, very special holding within their heart. Now, Blackbush, firstly, it's going to be older. So we're now up at 8 years old, whereas the original was 5. Then we're now going to have a higher malt content. So this is now going to be up to 80% single malt. The original was only 50. And now the big difference is the wood that we use. With the original, we used predominantly bourbon barrel, which is why it's got that lovely light golden color. You can see a very stark difference here. You can see just how rich, how dark, and how amber that Blackbush is. And that is because we're now using 80% Oloroso sherry casks that we get from southern Spain. Now, these sherry casks are very powerful, they're very distinctive, very, very influential. And what you'll notice if you pour yourself a little glass of Blackbush is that the biggest thing that'll stick out to you is the nose. And the nose of Blackbush is big, bold, it's full. If you're not used to Blackbush, one thing I always say to people is think along the lines of Christmas cake or fruit cake. Because you're going to get these dried fruits, you're going to get this nuttiness, you're going to get a little bit of spice, but more importantly, it's very, very rich. It's very, very fulfilling. So if you take a little sip, you just notice how much fuller that flavor is, coats the entire palate. Suddenly we notice this more single malt in there, but there's an older age. The smoothness is dramatically increased. That texture is a lot more distinctive. And now, what you'll definitely notice is the finish right here in the throat. It just lingers through. It's carrying and carrying and carrying. So Blackbush is always a sipping style whiskey, always will be. And it's a great whiskey to take your time with. Now, one of the best things in a traditional Irish pub, something else to take your time with, and something we always associate it with, is a pint of Irish stout. Now, we all know what stout this is, but this is served that we call in Belfast, more traditionally a black and black, because it's a black pint and it's a Blackbush. In the younger market, what they like to call it is Irish handcuffs, because this way you can't get distracted by a text, you can't get distracted by a call, your two hands are occupied, and you take a little sip of one, take a little sip of the other. What you'll notice with Guinness, or well, said what it is, Guinness is like, you'll tend to notice you're going to get more of those roasted coffee notes. Now with a little bit of Blackbush, what we're going to notice is that we can get this mixture, this marriage of almost more dark chocolate towards the back of the palate. So these two combinations work beautifully. And as we're coming up to St. Patrick's Day, we're all going to be drinking stout, probably Irish stout, but again, this works with local and locally brewed stouts. I mean, particularly with yourselves in Colorado, you must be right up there as being one of the most heavily brewed states that we have. So definitely go out, enjoy. If you ever get some of those cold snaps, the Blackbush is there to warm you up. And again, you sip one, you sip the next, you're ready for the next 2 or 3 rounds, happily, easily, without any problem whatsoever. So, yeah, again, for the different environments, Bushmills Original, I always think Irish coffee. The original is also great if you like your whiskey over ice. Blackbush, I always recommend neat, but again, with having a beer chaser, that's how you get that beautiful, beautiful combination. And again, the biggest reason to choose Bushmills is the fact that we are going out of our way to pay the taxes on using single malt. The reason all these other distilleries will produce different methods or pot still style is the fact they're avoiding paying a tax. They're using cheaper products. Even one of the most recognized Irish whiskies out there will actually use some French-grown products. Whereas us Irish up in the North Coast with Bushmills, we're that stubborn, we've stayed true. We're the most award-winning Irish whiskey. That's why we're the only Irish whiskey to stand that test of time. And once you discover Bushmills, and the number one thing I always say is time. Whenever you give Bushmills that second, that third sip, you discover why we are the best as well. So, yeah, guys, I'll open up the floor. If there's any questions here, more than happy to help out with yourselves.
Yeah, everyone, this is Brad with Proximo Spirits. So if anyone does have any questions, as Danielle mentioned, just so we're not flooding the airways here, feel free to just type in your message and your question for Jack in the chat as he is looking directly at it, and he'll be able to answer any questions you guys might have.
for all, well, since I am the first one, I do know it takes a while for the alcohol to flood around the system. So since unfortunately I'm probably going to nip off in the next minute or so, I'll do a little Irish toast with you. And this is a toast I do love. There are a lot of toasts that I hate. I hate saying, I hate being around about. But you have a glass. What I will say is, here's to a long life and a merry one, a quick death and an easy one, a pretty girl and an honest one, a Bushmills and another one. Sláinte, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you very, very much for your time. Once we can finally start traveling, can't wait to get back out to Colorado. So, cheers.
Sláinte. Thank you so much for your time.
No problem. Thanks, guys. Unfortunately, in the virtual world, I have to hop off to another appointment. Again, if there's any questions, please reach out to Brad. Obviously, he can answer, but at the same time, you can always send me a text. We can always get that answer as well. So, cheers, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack.
No problem.
So up next, we are going to have Trevor get us kicked off with a car bomb. So I will go ahead and send it straight over to him, and we will get the party started.
There we go. Had to unmute myself. Yeah, so not the most traditional Irish drink, obviously, but it involves some Irish ingredients, so we figured we'd give that a go. This was Nick's idea, our spirit specialist. Unfortunately, he can't be with us tonight, but in honor of it, I will do one for him. You're going to want to start with pouring your Guinness. Pour it slow down the side. Everyone usually knows that. Can cause some issues otherwise. I'm probably going to do about 3/4 just to have a couple more drinks to get through. Immediately you'll start to notice how the nitrogen is different than a normal carbonated beer. I don't know if you can see it. With the cascade, you can see it in my glass, and probably see it in yours. That's from the nitrogen. It releases differently than carbonation. It's not what leads to that creaminess, that mouthfeel that you get from Guinness. The next thing you want to do, you're going to want to prepare your drop shot, which is going to be, typically you do half your Irish cream, which is going to be hard chaw. And then the other half would be an Irish whiskey. Today I'm going to use Bushmills because I have some on me. And obviously we just had that amazing presentation, which I will not even try to follow up. Once again, feel free. You don't have to use all of it. But the trick with a car bomb, if I remember correctly, feel free to correct me if I am wrong, is you have to drink it quick because it can curdle. And you don't want that. But hey, if you guys are ready, here's to Nick. And then you have to get that proper splash, because if you didn't slam it fast enough, and you don't feel as ill as I do. From there, I think I'll go into the next drink. I'm going to use Irish cider, Magnus, one of the older ciders, originally founded in 1935, believe it or not, and they still use part of that recipe today. 17 varieties of apple. The tricky thing is they actually blend. Most people probably don't realize that, but so they take time with each batch up from 1 to 2 years, I believe. And they'll take part of that batch and blend it with other varieties of cider to get the blend that equals Magnus. What did I just do that now? And for this drink, this is called a snake bite. This was another one Nick helped me out with. You're going to pour half your Magnus into whatever glass you have. my fiance had this, so I took it. And then the other half, the Guinness. And I'm professional, so I have another one. The tricky part is with this drink is you want to pour it over a spoon. I don't think it matters what spoon you have. Just be gentle and turn it over backwards or upside down. I guess it'd be upside down. And you're going to want to pour slowly over the spoon to get a good mix. But the tricky thing is you want it to keep separated. I'll be able to show you when I'm done what you're looking for. It's kind of difficult. I don't know if you guys are seeing the separation that you're getting. You're doing it slow enough. But it should look something like that. Where you have the cider on the bottom and the Guinness on the top. And I'll be honest, this is actually my first time ever having a snake bite, which I'm pretty excited about. And it's very pleasant, actually. Guinness is known as a little bit drier, bitter stout. It's an English porter is what it originally was. And that's what makes it more crushable, in my opinion. It is hopped a little bit heavier than most, as most English porters are. But that gives you that dry, tannicky bite on the back end and that light body. And it pairs really well with that cider. I hope you guys are enjoying it. I'm trying to see some of the questions. This is a black and tan. Kind of a play on a black and tan. Typically a black and tan will be, yeah, like Guinness in a heart. Snakebite, I believe it's a pear cider you can use. I used Magnus this time, obviously for St. Patty's Day. But let's see if there was any other things. What'd you guys think of the snake bite? Is it something you'd go back to? I use Magnus. I have another bottle. I would definitely use something dry, preferably. But yeah, I don't know if everyone's ready, but I have one more beer. Yeah, Strongbow is also used very commonly. The next one I chose, I wanted to kind of go back to St. Patty's Day and like more on the Irish side of things, which is why I picked Innocent Gun. It's an Irish, or I'm sorry, it's a Scottish stout, but they age it with Irish whiskey chips. Originally, I was told it was Jameson chips. I don't know if that's true. I've heard mixed results on that. I've asked people. I haven't got anything clear back. The reason I chose this beer, though, is because it's a little more interesting than a lot of your American barrel-aged stouts. The chips that they use, it really brings forward the oak. And you don't get as much of that vanilla richness. The beer still shines through. And then it has more of, it highlights the whiskey in a way that American barrel-aged stout doesn't. This is also my staff pick this week. So if you don't remember it here, you can see it in our newsletter. These guys were, Innocent Gun is, like I said, Scottish brewery. One of the earlier breweries to start doing barrel-aged stuff. They started it in 2003, and that's what they released. I think they have 4 cores here. Overseas, they have more. But once again, yeah, with this stout, you're gonna really notice that you get a dry character that you don't get in an American barrel aged stout. American barrel aged, you get a lot of that vanilla and like rich sweetness, almost some like umami soy characters. None of that is going to shine through on this one. What I get immediately is a little bit of almost like butterscotch caramel. And then that's kind of cut down with that dryness. And to go back to the barrel aged side of it, this is a little bit misleading. They actually use something called an oakerator. They designed it for this beer specifically because they ran out of barrels. They couldn't find enough barrels to put their beer in. And what they do is instead of putting beer in a barrel, they put the barrel in the beer. And they created like almost like a dry hopping technique where they transfer the beer through a separate unit that's filled with these blended chips of oak and infused oak chips. And that will slowly over time infuse the beer with that oak flavor. And I think I don't know if it's that process or the type of chips that they're using, but for me, it gives you much more like of a subtle barrel character, but it's closer to what a whiskey actually is. You get that little bit of spice, some coconut. What's everyone think of that guy? That's the Innocent Gun Irish whiskey aged stout. Thumbs up. I like that. Yeah, this is one. They're actually one of the most awarded breweries as well. I recommend trying all of them because they're slightly different profile than I think what most people are used to, and being a little bit lower percentage, it makes it definitely easier to drink compared to most barrel aged stouts that where you're talking like 10 to 12%. This one's I believe 7.4. I wait for it every year. It's a great beer to sit on too. If you put it away for a year or two, it just improves. The complexity starts to show, and you get a little less toasted character as it goes. And that malt really comes through. You get that more sweetness, which is super nice. But those are the primary beers I have for you today. I don't know if we're gonna run into Travis next. I think is the plan, maybe, or.
Do you want to go to Carlos for spirits, do some cocktails, or do you want to finish off the beers?
I'm enjoying all of them.
I guess we can go straight into Travis then. Let's just finish off the beers and then we will finish the night off with some cocktails.
Oh, cocktails.
All right. Sorry, guys. I had to unmute myself there. Hope everybody's been enjoying their Irish coffees and the delicious snake bites. It's always a good route to go. I'm feeling like the odd man out, like I'm cheating a little bit tonight because I actually decided to go ahead and keep us a little bit closer to home with my picks for beer. Both of the breweries that I've chosen to bring along are local from Colorado. Lone Tree Brewing, who, surprise, Lone Tree, Colorado, and then Woods Boss up in Denver. So let's go ahead and start off with the Irish Red from Lone Tree. They tweaked the name a little bit. They call it their red ale now, but it is an Irish style red ale. Something along the lines of when you think Smittix, something like that. But I did a little bit of prep work because I like this a little bit closer to room temperature than something that I've had in the fridge all day. The reason I picked this is because for me, the best way to celebrate St. Patrick's Day is what I like to call pub drinking. And essentially all day, just beer after beer after beer. And what I want is something that's drinkable, something that's flavorful, something that's not gonna have me passed out on the couch too quick. So you will see with the Irish Red, it is gonna be a little bit darker in color, kind of like a deep ruby brown sort of color. It is a more malt forward beer. Really on the nose, especially with this beer, I tend to get hints of that caramel, a graininess. Something that it makes me think of a lot is almost like a bread, or like a toasted bread, or beautiful biscuity notes. And I'm making myself thirsty, so let's go ahead and kind of dig in here, if that's okay with you. Sorry, had to go ahead and just enjoy that one to myself for a second, but this has really been one of my favorite beers for St. Patrick's Day for, I couldn't even tell you how long. And flavor-wise, most of what I get really does follow the nose. It's not, this sounds like an insult, but it's not the most complex beer that you're going to have, which is exactly what makes it perfect for that like all day drinking session. I know that for me, like when I start drinking stout after stout, I can get a little bit weighed down. So this is just something still in that Irish tradition that you're probably just going to find me drinking all day long. Sorry, just trying to read. Computer's a little bit far away for the questions, but hope everyone enjoys their Irish style red ale from Lone Tree. Nice and close to home, and I'm reading again. I don't so much consider 6% to be a session as something that I can drink all day. I'm definitely not pounding this beer, just pint after pint after pint. I like to take my time and enjoy everything that it has to offer, because just from the beginning sip to the end, if you're looking, you can find a lot that you didn't taste at first. Now, I'm going to swap over to see if we can get that label in there a little bit better. Woods Boss Brewing, another local brewery up in Denver. As of 2020, they started canning. They've been making some fantastic beers for the last few years, but the state of the world kind of gave us the opportunity to bring them to you a little bit closer to home, which I am very thankful for. And again, with this, I do kind of feel like I'm cheating, because that car bomb that Trevor so kindly put together for us, I kind of had the guys at Woods Boss do it for me in one beer. This is Hisolda. This is their Irish Coffee Cream Stout. This has been one of my favorites for the last 4 months or so, in all honesty. Normally from a stout, you're going to get these rich, toasted, chocolatey, coffee kind of roast flavors, which are a little bit toned down in this beer for me. Definitely still some coffee, but on the nose, I get a little bit of subtle vanilla and a hint of almond, kind of like that Irish cream, which is really what A, they were emulating to, or attempting to emulate here, and B, what they really nailed. As much as I love this beer, I just need to try some, and I hope you'll join me. And I mean, once again, on St. Patrick's Day, it's a day for drinking. It's not a day that I want to go diving too deep and drinking a beer that I have to focus more on than traditionally the conversation I'd be having. So once again, this is a beer that follows the nose as far as your palate goes. You do get some of that stout character, some of that coffee, that chocolate, that thick, luscious body out of it. But if I didn't know better, I would think there was Irish cream in this glass. I'm glad you're liking it. I hope everybody is so far. Yeah, again, sorry to cheat and cut corners and have someone else make my Irish car bomb for me, but cheers. You most definitely should pick up at least one of each. They are both fantastic beers from local breweries, and I can't say good enough things about the breweries, the beers, or the people. Well, we'll have some waiting for you when you make it to Colorado then.
All right, we will go ahead and move over to Carlos, who is our spirit specialist for tonight, and he's gonna make some great cocktails.
How's everybody doing? Good to see you. It's been a fun night so far. I'm really excited to get started and jump in. Are you hearing me okay? Sure.
It's a little echoey.
Okay. How's that?
If Travis just turns off his sound on his computer, then it probably will get rid of the echo back and forth. And then Carlos, you should be able to unmute.
Are we good now? Yes, sweet.
Sorry.
Sorry for that little hiccup, everyone. So I am Carlos. I am the spirit specialist over in Centennial. It's good to be here. This is my first time doing a happy hour with HRCA. So thank you for having me. And thank you to the People's Building here in Aurora for letting Travis and I use the facility. It's been kind of cool having a bar, being able to stay at a bar. So I kind of did the same thing as Trevor did, and I used my staff pick for the week as my pick for this particular event. What I've done is I picked the Sexton single malt Irish whiskey, which you can see right here. There's a couple cool things about this whiskey and a couple of reasons why I picked it. The master distiller is named Alex Thomas, I believe, and she's one of the few female distillers in Ireland, female master distillers. And if you look at master distillers all around the world, there's not a lot. So in honor of National Women's Day, Women's Week, Women's Year, I wanted to pick this one. Couple of few fun things about this guy right here. If you notice the logo right up on top there, the Sexton, the skeleton. So you might think this is probably a better pick for maybe somewhere around Halloween. Nay, my friends. So what we have is the Sexton is the guardian of the church, the ringer of the bell, sometimes the grave digger. Sure, sounds a little spooky still, right? But it's also a Victorian brooch. Still a little spooky, right? A little mourning brooch. But notice the shape of the bottle, all right? It's hexagonal. Now, if you've ever been to the Giant's Causeway in Northern Ireland, and I have, you'll notice the rocks. You'll notice the rocks are big hexagons that just shoot up through the soil. They just shoot up through the ground. You're walking on top of them. You're walking alongside of them. There's the mist. There's the dark clouds. There's everything there that seems so spooky, but also so romantic and so sexy. And that is what this whiskey is: romantic, sexy, and spooky. So let's get to it. I'm going to pour a little dram for myself. If you have it with you, please join in. I'm going to go slow. And then since Travis is here next to me, there you go, buddy. We're gonna pretend he's in the other room. What I want you to notice with this one, it is a single malt. It is malted Irish barley, 100%. And if you remember earlier in the Zoom meeting, he was talking about how it's, oh boy, it's not unusual for people to blend, for people to bring grain from other countries, grain from other regions. These guys are doing it from just right there in Northern Ireland. The color is beautiful. It's a nice, almost orangey amber that I really love. On the nose, of course, you get that alcohol, but you can also get almost like, I get nuts. I do get those dried fruits for sure. Cheating with the pour spout on the Sexton, that's not a cheat. Just wait, I need it.
Somebody's got to give you a
I
hard
know.
time.
That was Chad. Thank you, Chad. So now it's starting to open it up, and you can really smell that barley. For me, barley is a distinct thing. It smells like hay. It smells like earth, and it brings me back to standing on the shores and the rocks of the Giant's Causeway. Lots of brininess, almost just crashing waves, but just a little muddy, if you will, you know. And I enjoy that a lot about this guy. This whiskey is not your typical Irish whiskey. It's still light, still finessed, and I think Alex did a great job with this one. Oh man, citrus, apricot, maybe. Woo. Fig, almond for sure.
So are we going to try it? Or?
Oh yeah, we can try it. Sorry, you can sip it. I'm a sniffer. So I've been getting into cigars a lot lately, the past, I would say 3 months. And one of the things I'll do is, this is one that I'll take. I have a Wild Turkey Kentucky Spirit that I'll take on my walks, an Angel's Envy. And then this guy, just because it's so wonderfully nuanced, but also neutral and supports all those tobacco flavors. And my buddy Aaron, hey, look out, at the People's Building, just gave me a pipe tonight, so I'll be trying it with the old pipe. Thank you, Aaron. Does everybody see what I was talking about when I said it's kind of light on the palate? It isn't heavy. There's not a lot of burn, but it still tingles. It's still got a lot of sparkle to it, if you want to call it that. It's alive on the palate for sure. I don't think, I wouldn't call it lightweight. That's for certain. And then as you exhale, I get stone fruits and a lot of really interesting things. The oak is there, the char is there. So it's a great little journey, you know, from this little guy right here. And then hopefully it brings up some haunting memories for you in the future. Now, you continue to sip. If you have what it takes to make these ingredients, then please follow along. I'm going to make a couple of cocktails for us all. The first one is the Irish Whiskey Smash. We're going to need the Sexton Irish Whiskey. Now, sure, I could use this guy. I did bring it, but I consulted with my wife last night and she told me to free pour. So that's what I'm gonna do. We're gonna need Sexton. We're going to need some simple syrup, fresh lime so I can muddle, and of course some mint. So you gotta have your shaker. Got yourself some mint sprigs. Ah, I see somebody following along. You're ahead of me, buddy. So the mint sprigs in there. I'm gonna go for 2 chunks of lime, 1/4 ounce of simple, and then muddle. We got a jumper. Grab some ice in here. Did anybody try this cocktail ahead of time? I'm curious about that because I did. I made made these things a few different ways. So I'm curious to see if anybody else took it upon themselves to do the same thing. Now we come to the spout. And sorry for cheating, Chad. Perfect. Got your 2-ounce pour, right? Now there's a lot of argument as to whether or not you should shake or stir, whether you should shake whiskey or not. Let's try to clarify that. If you remember the old James Bond Vesper Martini, that's a perfect way to kind of explain this. If you have cocktails that are all alcohol, like the Negroni, the Manhattan, then you would typically you would stir that cocktail, right? A lot of people stir whiskey no matter what. I say rules are meant to be broken, just like Mr. Bond said, shaken, not stirred. You want to infuse the ingredients when you have any sort of juice. This doesn't have juice, but I'm going to shake it anyway. Got my glass. I'm going to fill her up with some ice. Perfect. Now, I have a kind of shaker, which you probably see a lot in stores, that already has your strainer built in. I don't really trust these strainers unless I am okay with stuff getting through. So I brought along this guy. Like a little pour, right? Takes a little longer, but you get that cleaner beverage, right? Nice, beautiful color. I tried it at home too with agave syrup, just because I wanted to see if it made it greener. And didn't necessarily make it greener, it made it a little browner. But it gave it a cool, different flavor to it, which I liked. Got your lime wheels here. Get yourself a nice, beautiful mint sprig. Fluff it up. Oh, beautiful. How's that? I'm telling you, this guy is refreshing as all get out. I had it, I would say, not last weekend, but the weekend before. Weather was great. I sat outside, had my cigar, had one of these. It was perfect. Cheers, everybody. I'm going to hand this guy to Travis. Uh-oh. Because I'm going to drink the next one. I don't think you're going to want the next one. So for the next one, I'm going to get a little fancy on everybody. I hope that's all right. As Travis can attest, I've really gotten into making clear ice. It's a thing for me now. So this is one I brought from home, all right? Super easy to do. In case anybody's wondering, all it takes is a little small Coleman cooler, just like this one. Fill it up with really hot water. You don't have to boil if you don't want to. Put it in the freezer with no top on it. And what happens is the freezing starts like a lake. So it goes from top to bottom and all the impurities and the bubbles get pushed down. So you end up with a big block of clear ice that you can carve up any way you want. So that's what I did for tonight. All right. Whew. Next one. What's everybody think of that one? Did anybody get a chance to try it? Yeah, I got a thumbs up. Excellent. How do you carve it? That's a very good question. There's a lot of ways to do it. I have this ceramic knife that I can use. I also have a carving like ice pick that I'll use. It depends on what I'm trying to do. If I'm trying to knock off a big chunk, I'll do it that way. But just to start, a lot of people, if you look online, will use these big, long like saw blades or big serrated knives. I just use a bread knife, and then I have a little mallet. So I put little markings in it, and then I tap the top of the knife, and it breaks right off. Super easy. All right, for our next one. And I gave Travis that last one because I don't think he's going to want this one. I know Travis's palate pretty well now. Or at least I like to think I do. You like to think. So the recipe that everybody was probably sent called for 1.5 ounces of Sexton and 1.5 ounces of Midori. I made it again the other day, and I felt that it was a little too sweet. Please feel free to do it that way. I'm going to alter just a little bit and do 1 ounce of the Midori and 2 ounces of the Sexton, just because it's a whiskey cocktail, so I want to taste the whiskey, you know? All right. Grab some mint. Now, if you're like me, I'll smack it and drop it in. I do that for 2 reasons. One, I want to release the oils, and I want to get that mint infused into the cocktail, but also it smells really good on my hands. I'm going to get 2 ounces of the old Sexton. and then an ounce of the Midori. And in case anybody's wondering, yes, I do test myself on those pours all the time. So I am counting in my head even when I'm talking. I'm pretty sure I got those correct. All right. Now for the fun part. Whoops. Let's do reverse James Bond. Let's do like the recipe says, right? Stir it up, have a little fun. If you want to shake it, remember, rules are meant to be broken. I'm gonna back up just so it's not too loud for you. I think it's interesting. There's lots of different spoons, lots of different shakers, lots of different strainers. Ooh, you can do a whole video like this literally on what you should have on your bar. And that could be a whole hour-long conversation in and of itself. So I do have my Hawthorne strainer. I did my stirring. You do get a Hawthorne strainer instead of a julep strainer. Get one that has the little nozzle for your nodule for your finger. And I'll show you why in a second. There's some that don't have that and you're basically just holding it there, right? But what you want to do is be able to control what's going in and out of your cocktail. So in this one, I don't mind if I get a little bit of green mintiness in there. I probably won't because I didn't muddle it. Look at that. Can you see why I'm a nerd for clear ice? Another reason I do the clear ice, by the way, is because it doesn't have the impurities and it'll stay solid and keep the cocktail cold longer without melting and watering it down. So there is some reason for my madness. Oh, baby, little bit of ginger ale. Now, when I did this at home, and I told you I shook the heck out of it, I did that because you'll notice that we're getting some bubble on top, but when I shook it before adding the ginger ale, I had a nice big foam. So either one works great. It's going to taste pretty much the same. Again, another little mint sprig in there. You know what? I don't like those mint sprigs. Cocktailing is about making your drinks look good too, right? All right. Here we go. Now we're talking. Cheers, everybody. Thank you very much, Brad. I appreciate that. Only put a splash of ginger ale. Exactly. That's the wonderful thing about cocktails. That's what I love is when you take a classic and you turn it into something completely different, or you take something weird like this that you think shouldn't work and you make it work. You know, on a hot day, this is fantastic. I think this needs the lime that really citrus. I need some acidity in there after the fact. And guess what? I can stir it again. And all will be right with the world. Cheers, everybody.
You're the man, Carlos.
If you haven't already, by the way, I would say run out and see if you can't find some of the Sexton. As far as Irish whiskeys go, it's kind of become one of my faves. The Quiet Man is another one. The Teeling is pretty darn great. There's some really good Irish whiskey out there. And I know that bourbon, especially in Colorado, bourbon gets all the hype and Scotch will be kind of a close second, but start looking at those Irish whiskeys because there's some really, really fantastic stuff being made. See, somebody I just asked, that is Don Appleby. Carlos, Irish is smoother, right? Smoother is one of those words that I think we struggle with a lot because it means something different to everybody. If by smoother you mean it doesn't have a burn, it doesn't have a long finish, then absolutely. But some people think smooth means that it burns your esophagus, and that, for me, that's not what I like. I like nuances, I like character. Sometimes I like a rich mouthfeel, more viscosity. This one kind of fits all the bills. It's got complexity and it's also easy drinking. It doesn't have that burn. So for me, I would say, yeah, I would say this is definitely a smoother one. Writer's Tears is another one somebody mentioned. That was Chad. That and Don Appleby, no backburn. Does anybody still have their whiskey in the glass? It just opens up. There's so much vanilla and caramel now that's popular that wasn't there before, along with those almond notes. And that's all the wood and it's all the barley. Man, I really dig it. And in case anybody doesn't know, that's Travis's elbow. That's why we're looking at each other. Thank you, Edwin. That's very kind.
Hey, Carlos. Somebody asked earlier if you can make your clear ice in smaller portions. She said she can't fit a cooler in her freezer. Is there a smaller way that you could do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first time I did it, before I decided to invest the $12 in my freezer or on my cooler, was trying it in my shaker. Essentially what you need, and the reason the cooler just works better is because it's insulated from all sides, right? So I tried it just using this, but what you really need is a mold of some kind, and then a hole in the bottom so that the impurities can kind of trickle out or be pushed out. I did it with another mold with my Coleman here, and it worked awesome. I made these really beautiful snowflakes, and I used it with a mold that I got from Maker's Mark. I don't know if I need to pull up my Instagram for that, but it's just a little harder with something smaller that isn't insulated on all sides. What you want is you want it to be forcing the impurities down, right? You don't want it to be cooling like our normal ice trays do from all sides, because what that does is it takes all the bubbles and all the impurities and just kind of forces it to the middle. You'll notice your ice cubes kind of all collectively have these white little areas in the middle of the ice tray. But I did try it here. Let me see if I can do it. I've annoyed Travis with my clear ice for, here we go, for months now. But if you can see that. So that's one that I did with a mold, and I put it, again though, I did use my my cooler, and then I put the mold up on top and then filled it with water with a little hole in the mold so it's just kind of sink down. But as long as you have something that's insulated, this just wasn't insulated enough, so it just froze the same way as normal.
What about like an insulated coffee cup?
I haven't tried that. Or a Yeti, even? Yeah, that's a good call. I haven't tried that yet. I'll probably do that tonight. Now that you said it. Thank you very much. You know, I've read a lot about advantages to using distilled water for cubes and boiling water. I have boiled water too, and it seems to work better, but everything I've heard, because air pockets are still a thing. I mean, yeah, maybe you don't have to though. I mean, the cubes that I get are pretty darn cool. And if you look at people on Instagram or on YouTube or anything, a lot of them don't talk about doing that as a necessity, so. Oh yeah, and there are clear ice makers on Amazon and other places, and heck, Davidsons sells them. We sell packs of 9 for I think $7, $8. Super easy. And if you're having your whiskey, even if you're having your whiskey and you just want to rock, awesome. Yeah, hi. Uh-oh. Thanks, Chad. You rule.
Chad's a good guy.
Way to go, Chad. So advantages to distilled versus boiling, I haven't noticed it yet anyway. So the snowflake was from a mold. Maker's Mark came to the store and did which is something, if you're not on our emails, you should probably do that, sign up for the emails, because it tells you when we're going to have giveaways, when we're having hand sales in the store, when we're having engravings. And Maker's Mark did this really cool one over Christmas where they did calligraphy on the bottles. So they made you special labels. And when they did that, they also gave away these molds, and they just had one at the end of the night and asked if I wanted it. And I said, yeah. And then after making some foggy snowflakes, I said, you know what? This was free. I'm going to try an experiment and see if it works. And I'd already tried some things and it was awesome. Any other questions for Travis or Trevor or anybody?
Where did you get the hat?
Yeah, I want to know the same thing.
Oh, okay. So that's funny. I moved here. I moved here from New York City. I was a bartender in New York City, and I was a general manager and buyer for a wine, a spirits store there. And I was just wanting a new hat, you know, like I'd gotten a cool one in Cincinnati, and I said, I want to find a cool hat store. And I found this one in Harlem on 125 and Broadway, I think. And it's called the Flamekeepers Hat Club. And I purchased numerous hats from there now, because I love, they're not your typical hat that you see everywhere. He'll bend them and mold them to your head and make it so that it fits your style, your personal style. Not that everybody's going to go out and do that, but I imagine that the Gorham brothers will have a steamer and stuff. There's hat stores. If you find smaller hat stores, they'll do that stuff for you and they'll fit it for you. But it was in Harlem. How'd you get the hat name of the store? Yeah, Don, it was the Flamekeepers Hat Club in Harlem. My hat. In fact, that's their logo. It's a little turtle.
Yeah, it's rad.
I wanted to wear a green hat. Hey, it's St. Patrick's Day, right? I want to do that. Where's the after party? I think it's at Don Appleby's house. Don, you want to post your address? We'll be right there. Or Chad. No?
I mean, I'd show up.
Yeah.
I've got more Sexton with a pour spout if nobody minds. There's an after bar. Oh my gosh.
Awesome. Well, if we don't have any more questions, I will go ahead and close this out. Thank you so much for being here tonight. And thank you to Travis, Brad, Trevor, Carlos, Jack. I hope I didn't miss anybody. There was a lot of us tonight. So I really appreciate everybody being with us. Thanks for some amazing drinks, some great beer. We really appreciate it. And we appreciate your time a lot. For those of you who got your swag bags, just a huge shout out to Brad and Bushmills. I see a lot of people wearing the shirts and sweatshirts and stuff, so I'm glad that a lot of you guys were able to get that. And then a last thank you to Davidsons. We really appreciate your support, like I said at the beginning of this. And our next one will be on March 25th, and it's actually going to be with Chad. And he will be teaching us some amazing gin drinks for spring. So a lot of fun, light spring gin drinks. So we hope you enjoy, or we hope you join us for that. And thanks again for being with us tonight. Have a great night and happy St. Patrick's Day.
And thank you.
Thanks
Danielle.
everyone. That was great. That was fun.